Smugface was in full swing when I got the engine on this R32 Golf started after having done the chains and the head gasket. Unfortunately, all is not well. So you may have seen a few weeks ago that I managed to get this car started and it all sounded pretty tickety-boo. Unfortunately, we do have a bit of a running problem where, when it warms up, it actually tries to cut out when you put the throttle down. So, I've been tracing a few things and I wanted to go through with you where we are and if we can find the fault.
We were finding that as you apply the throttle, then the engine would try and cut out.
Oh! No. Still not right.
Stop.
No, still not right.
No.
Frustratingly, we even had the full front end reassembled on this car and we'd managed to get it out of the garage to do some work on the brakes. But we are back to a faceless Golf again, because here we are with the slam panel being loosened, the radiator loosened, trying to diagnose what is causing this strange running issue. We initially thought it may be a vacuum issue, because when a car cuts out after being on load, it can quite often be that, because the throttle body doesn't really know where it needs to be. So here we are on what is probably the coldest evening of the year so far, hence my big coat and a hoodie, because even though I'm in my garage, it is still freezing. So I'm going to go through with you where we are right now. When this car was originally converted, we had the SAI, the secondary air intake, removed and mapped out. So we found this vacuum hose here, which I couldn't find go anywhere when I did the reinstallation of this engine. I've traced it back and you will find that it then buries down under the inlet manifold, and there are two solenoids that sit just under the intake here. So this is what I was trying to check out, where this vacuum hose went. Having done some research, when you pull on this vacuum hose, you can see up there, and that goes to the left solenoid. You can just about see that moving there. So at one point I actually thought I may have had the solenoids the wrong way around, so I did swap them round, but that made no difference whatsoever. Having checked through some wiring diagrams and schematics, we have established that the SAI, because it has been removed, we don't think actually needs this vacuum hose. So that was actually in that ducting here and was just sat hidden in there basically when I actually removed it from the engine all that time ago. So while we thought we were onto something, we think we may have just been leading ourselves down a bit of a red herring with that vacuum hose, because it doesn't actually do anything. So on to the next thing. Now, another reason to eradicate a vacuum issue with this is because if there was a vacuum leak, then generally the car will idle high. Now, the idle on this car is pretty good. It will idle at around 700 RPM, which, although seems a little low, on VCDS that is actually about right, because on there it says it should be between 650 to 800 RPM. So another thing with this engine is, despite being a 6-cylinder 3.2 litre VR6, it actually idles very, very smoothly and is very, very quiet when it is just idling and not under load. So if there is a vacuum leak, you would most likely hear it. So although I suspected that there might be something around this little piece here, or any vacuum line just might have come disconnected or cracked or something like that, or even the inlet manifold itself not seating correctly, generally you'll be able to hear that sort of thing, because I have had a vacuum leak on this car before and you can hear it whistles away quite substantially, so I was quickly able to rule that out. Now, on this car, the ECU has a permanent live coming from the battery, so when the engine is switched off, it is always receiving some form of voltage to keep everything in check, keeps all of its memory in place and everything like that. Obviously, when we did the engine removal on this, the battery was disconnected and taken out. So there was always a risk then that the ECU might actually forget certain parameters and things like that. And one of those parameters can quite often be the throttle body learning. So this is something which we checked out. Now, we thought we had struck gold early on, because when you rev this car up, this little piece here, so this plunges down on here, and when it was doing that, it was plunging down, but then this would pop off, and this is to do with like a plenum in the inlet manifold, so that sort of controls the fuel air mix that goes through the inlet manifold. Well, not the fuel, the air mix that goes through the inlet manifold, and that was popping off, so therefore wasn't plunging down that bit there. So we actually initially thought that that was likely the cause. Unfortunately, it wasn't. I was able to take these two end caps off, was able to just give the plenum inside just a little nudge, and it just moved over about 0.5 centimetre or so, and that was enough just for this white piece to go over that tab there. So that is now locked in place and doesn't come off. Unfortunately, the fault remained. So here we are with a very old version of VAG-COM, which you can use to get the fault codes and look at the measuring blocks on this car. You can also do quite a lot of coding on it as well if you really wanted to. That I have no idea really what I'm doing. I would need a lot of help. However, I've spoken to a good friend, and he has talked me through how to look for some faults on this car. Now, the one that we are looking at really is this one. Bank 1, camshaft A intake, retard set point not reached, over advanced, P0011-008, implausible signal. Now, what you don't want to do is Google that, because what that will do is put the fear of God into you and tell you that your chains are stretched. Now, considering I've just done the chains, that is something that I did not want to see is possibly the case. So, hopefully that is not the case, but that shows that I think we have an electronic problem somewhere. Going by VCDS, or VAG-COM, whichever you want to call it, and looking at the fault code and those readings on the measuring block 090 to 091, you see that the readings are 22 degrees apart, where they should really be about the same. So that indicates really that I've probably attached the camshaft sensor connectors the wrong way around. Bit of an amateur error, but if that is the cause, then that's a relief. Let's have a look. Here are the camshaft position sensors. Here's one, and the other one is there. It'll be quite easy to get them the wrong way around, because the cable just goes like that, and just to there. So I'm going to take those out and I'm going to swap them around and see if that makes any difference. That came out nice and easily, hopefully. As I say, I don't like taking these out because they are, they're 15 years old now. They are a bit brittle, and they are surprisingly easy to break. He says, struggling with this one. There we go. Now that is actually quite tight on the loom, which I do not remember that being tight like that when I took this off first time around. So I'm confident that I may have got that the wrong way around.
I swapped the connectors around between the inlet and exhaust cams.
So with the cam position sensors plugged back in, that fault code has gone. Let's start the car, let it warm up, and let's see if it still does that cutting out fault. So now I'm going to start the car and let it warm up, and then see if we still have that issue of where it tries to cut out when the throttle is applied. No, my rev counter doesn't work. So let's go on to VCDS, just check things are working as they should. So yeah, that fault code has gone. That is good. Check the measuring blocks. So as you can see, it is cold. So we are on cold start at the moment at 1160 RPM, 15 degrees. Let's see what the intake and exhaust cams are measuring.
now we're off cold start. We are on a warm cycle. I'll be honest, I really hope this works, because otherwise this could be just a horrible rabbit hole of fault finding. I'm just hoping it was a case of a sensor the wrong way around. If not, just keep digging, I suppose, and hopefully not have to throw any money at it. So here we have the engine idling. I'm not even having to raise my voice. It's a very, very quiet engine. This is what I'm talking about, where if there was a vacuum leak, I think we would have heard it. It would have just been sucking air and it would just be whistling away. So, purring away like a sewing machine at the moment, letting it warm up. Now here we go, it's come off completely cold start now. So what we've got here is the cam adjustment, reading the same. As you noticed before on cold start, they were both, well, all four of those readings were on 0. So we've now got the exhaust cam at 0 and the intake cam at 22. So now this was where we were having the issues. So if I'm going to bring the revs up, let's see if it tries to cut out. I really hope this works. Well, that was promising. Let's try it again. That was causing it to cut out when I went to these revs before. Oh. I think I might have fixed it. So yeah, that looks like that might have fixed it. Bring the revs up. And the adjustment reads about the same all the way through the rev range. And when you come off the overrun, back down to 680 RPM, and the exhaust cam back to 0 and the intake cam back to 22. Wow. Now I am very, very relieved, and let's just say my smug face is back. So in short, what I'd done was I'd connected the intake and exhaust cam sensors, the position sensors, the wrong way around, and what that was doing was causing spurious readings on these 4 points here. I was getting 22 degrees here and 0 here and 22 here and 0 here, so that was just not the way it should be. You wanted these to be matching on each of these intake and exhaust cams. So just again, going to run it through just to make sure that wasn't a fluke. Going to bring up the revs. That would have caused it to stall, or tried to stall earlier. Off the revs. You get that lovely crackle from the exhaust, but no stall. I'm very happy. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity to check the chain stretch, if you call it that, or the offset, shall I say, on the change between the two cams. And we have got +6 and +3, so that's a difference of 3 degrees. Now they allow up to 8 degrees before, you know, you'll probably throw a warning light for one and it will start to run badly and you'll start to hear the chain rattling. Ironically, actually, before I had the engine out of this car, about 3 years prior, I had the chain tolerances checked and it was actually only a difference of +1. So, oh well, never mind, but they're still well within spec. I'm happy. So I just wanted to give a shout out to all of those who have been helping me through this slight problem which I've been having. So Ben Straker, who you've seen in some of the videos previously, Dave Ackerman, who has got basically exactly the same setup as this car. He's been talking me through quite a few bits. Tom Parker, who runs TC Performance up in Sheffield. Go check him out, he is a real guru, especially anything turbo related as well. He's got a mad Golf R with nearly 1,000 brake horsepower, absolute weapon. And also Tom Rich, who runs Hardwire Performance, who is actually the company who installed this engine in the first place back in 2017, still trying to help me out as and when I've needed to. You know, a lot of companies would just wash their hands of you as soon as you end up with any problems after having had an install or anything couple of times he has come to the rescue, and he has been just trying to help all the time. So thank you very much. Thank you to all of you who've tried to help. Very much appreciated. Without you, well, first of all, I wouldn't have been able to get the this work done in the first place, and secondly, I would have been in a real muddle with this fault here. So yes, very much appreciated. Thanks very much for watching. Let's see you next time on Southeast Mk2 Golfs.